Hey guys, welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we are watching a oft-requested, oft-demanded, oft-required movie, Howard the Duck. Stars Lea Thompson, the pre-Troubles Jeffrey Jones, a lot of very weird, sexy banter, and yeah, a very weird Tim Robbins and some light Cleveland bash. Also, I guess more power to Lea Thompson for trying to reboot it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Consider joining our Patreon, patreon.com/myopia. And if you're interested in hearing some movie riffs, consider joining patreon.com/cineprod as well. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Bye.
Welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we tackle the same cocaine-fueled George Lucas movie that every other bad movie podcast has done. Back to the Future. Ghostbusters. Howard the Duck. The movie that wishes it could be either of those other two movies. I'm host Nick Hoffman, Riffer on Cineprov, and on panel we've got
Atlanta author Matthew W. Quinn. Check out my Amazon page.
I am no longer Daniel. The transformation is complete. I am now someone else.
There is no Daniel, only Zool. And on panel we have
Norchernette. I might say something good. I might say something bad, but it's nothing as bad as this movie.
You'll say something about Howard, which
I'll say something about Howard.
This movie, if you haven't seen it, first of all, you should also buy the 4K because I don't want to be the only one who spend that money.
I bought this movie. There was $1 difference between renting it and buying it, so I ended up buying it.
I'll get Tammy and the T-Rex on 4K. I will not get this on 4K.
You can rent it at Videodrome on 4K.
You know, I was actually just there the other week for the first time ever. I got a T-shirt.
This movie, for those of you who don't know, is a George Lucas passion project. Before he directed Star Wars, and after THX 1138 and American Graffiti were a hit, he wanted to make this movie.
No.
But it was so bad of a pitch, they waited until after Return of the Jedi. Second of all, this is the first movie that used computers to erase wires. So that scene at the very beginning where Howard gets exploded through this thing and they pull him through all those sets.
Oh, with the duck boobies?
The duck boobies, we'll get there. The evolution of all species end with breasts. They erased the wires to pull him through, and that was used with computers, something that was used before it was used in any other movie, because they wanted to lose money on this movie, apparently.
Well, there is a happy ending about the money they lost on this movie, but we'll get there.
I'm sure there was a happy ending.
I'm sure George Lucas did get a very nice hand job at the end of this.
Oh, boy. So,
did you know that his little garbler starts shrieking and making mating calls whenever it's aroused?
Oh, God, weird. That's so weird. So if you have not seen this movie, the plot is stupid. But
there is no plot until halfway through the movie.
Well,
you're right.
Yeah.
He gets an alien duck gets brought to our world by accident and hooks up with this small-time rock star. And meantime, something else is brought to Earth.
Marty McFly's mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
He comes to that weird, strange, magical land of Cleveland. And Lea Thompson's there as like some sort of has anybody else ever seen Ladies and Gentlemen, the Fabulous Stains?
No.
Okay, well, that's what this band is Ladies and Gentlemen, the Fabulous Stains. Which,
or
fine movie, go find that if you can.
Or
early Laura Dern role.
Or I was going to say Wayne's World. It reminds me of the
Wayne's World 2. Was it 2?
Well, I mean, she's in both.
Oh,
but
she's in both.
Yeah, I mean, they're about to bust out Ballroom Blitz at any moment. It's pretty rough.
Now, I've actually got two questions for Matt here because we talked about this off mic, but I want to get
it's so funny.
I want to get this on mic. Matt, first and foremost, did you like this movie?
Yes, I thought it was hilarious.
All right, my second question. What the hell is it with you and bad movies with Thomas Dolby written songs that you think is okay? First it was the fucking baddie rap, and now it's Howard the Duck.
The name is Betty. The logic is
that was
erected.
not permission, Matt.
I didn't really like Fern Gully that much. I do like the Bat song, but I like this movie. I thought it was funny.
I mean, there were some parts that were funny, but I still... First fucking 30 seconds, I'm seeing duck titties.
The opening was weak. I'll concede that.
Okay.
You're also allowed to laugh at a movie that's terrible.
Now, this movie is rated PG.
Even
back in
though
80s PG.
80s PG.
No,
Okay.
that's not fair because this is 2 years after PG-13 was invented.
I was wondering when that was an issue.
It was the first PG-13 movie officially was Red Dawn, I believe.
Yeah, it's
there was a
around there.
scene in I think a brothel with hot tubs.
Yeah.
Yes.
And by the way, before anyone asks me, no, literally none of this was filmed in Cleveland, which is a lot. And the way you can tell is, first of all, the rolling hills, the Hollywood sign, and palm trees, none of which exist in Cleveland, Ohio.
When was the last time you were in Cleveland?
About a week ago.
I kid.
Come on down to Cleveland town, everybody. Cleveland.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Leaving me hanging.
I will 100%
yes.
leave you hanging for that.
I have been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Cleveland's nice. It's
Cleveland's
not bad.
perfectly fine. Also, it's one of the best jokes from 30 Rock that everyone wants to just go to their own personal Cleveland.
Yes.
But
Classic episode.
also, it's so funny. I saw this in the IMDb Tribune. Who knows if it's real or not? One of the things is a very young, early acting career for Tim Robbins was in this, and he was wearing a Cleveland hat with a C on it. Apparently, the first prop department showed up with one of those Chief Wahoo hats, and they're like, and George Lucas said, "No, it's too racist." So they got rid of it, and they got just the C.
Oh, you mean the Cleveland Guardians baseball team?
Yes. As we're recording today, they've literally changed the
They
name.
changed
Which
it.
Yep.
good on them.
Yep.
Because they did it before Washington Football Team, which is still Washington Football Team. But also, since the Indians are having a bad season, I guess that forcing everyone to buy new kit, probably a good financial move.
So what happens? So are they going to just like CGI scenes from Major Leagues now?
Oh, they're going to George Lucas those old games when they're on
Seriously.
ESPN Classic.
Right.
Originally, I didn't want to make Major League with so racism, so now it's just everyone is happy and they're waving at each other.
All right.
Also, I will say, I remember in 1995 when the Atlanta Braves beat those shitheads, but we had they had Chief Wahoo as their mascot, and we had Chief Nakahoma as a mascot, and both were super racist. And remember, this is 95, the year before we had the Olympics about peace and getting along.
And Izzy.
Yeah, right. And my elementary school teacher, went on a march to protest that, which is one of those things that you realize later, oh, she was right. But at the time I was like, hey, a sub, let's draw more. But you know, you learn, you live. In the meantime, there's a fucking duck in this. And by the way, emphasis on the fucking.
Yeah, I was about to
Because
say.
there's a used condom. And by the way, I don't know if any of you were sad enough in your life to have condoms in your wallet, but you left that shit in the wrapper. You don't have it unwrapped in your wallet. That gross perv duck, man.
We learned.
The opening kind of hints that he might have something going with two other ducks at the same time.
He has a play duck that he's flipping through.
and a
Oh.
play duck.
The opening is just everything that's wrong with this movie. There's a Play Duck magazine, like we referenced. There's a poster that he has framed on his wall for a movie called Breeders of the Lost Stork. And then there is an issue of Rolling Egg instead of Rolling Stone that he also has in his mail.
Hey, Steven, can I make fun of your movie? In my movie, I was an executive producer on both of them.
You sound like George Lucas in the middle of an orgasm there.
So, in the meantime, we should kind of get through just the basic plot. Fucking duck comes to Earth. Nothing matters for a while. He makes out with Lea Thompson. And in the act of figuring out who he is, another alien comes to Earth.
Some sort of dark overlord of the universe.
And possesses Jeffrey Jones.
A pre-Troubles Jeffrey Jones. And that's it. After going to the Cuyahoga Perry nuclear power plant, they then try to beam other monsters to Earth, and the movie ends. Here's why all of this is terrible. Howard the Duck is just a detective.
Is he?
In the comics, that's all he is. He's like a gritty.
Well, hence why they open it like it's we're about to meet Duck Sam Spade.
Yeah, he's alone in his apartment because no dame can tame him. He's drinking a stiff whiskey.
He's got a cigar, I believe.
And he's looking at a Playboy because he's at the end of a previous case, we assume. But, that's who he's supposed to be. That's why this stinks to me of 2 years before Ghostbusters came out, because, there's monsters and they're possessing people. And by the way, Tim Robbins looks like Rick Moranis. He's the Keymaster. people are possessed, and
Well,
at the end there's the CGI
he looks
monster.
like
I was getting Jeffrey Goldblum in the Fly situation going.
Also,
on,
totally, like where there's the tentacle coming out of her
right,
mouth.
right. He's just sweating and just
Yeah,
And there's a scene at a diner with nonsense happens.
Except
The
the
diner
fly is
scene is
good.
hilarious.
No,
I'd be
it's
like-
not.
Yes,
It's
it is.
fine.
They-
It's fine.
An angry mob tries to eat him.
eventually. But no, I did find it funny. They seasoned him up, putting some celery in his mouth. That some type of a Japanese chef comes out of nowhere.
Oh,
this
dude,
Japanese
it gets racist real quick. He goes, "Oh!" and
It's
then
a Japanese restaurant, though.
It's not.
It's a diner.
No, it's
some
a 50s diner.
some
Okay,
diner.
They have
So, well, we should talk about it eventually, but it's called Romeo Joey's or something like that. But it says it's a sushi fusion. It's Cajun sushi on the sign. And by the way, if you look closely,
in
and
Cleveland.
behind the sign, it literally says Italian restaurant, and they put Cajun sushi like a decal on the front of that fucker. But we have all these people wearing like gingham gowns, right? Like these women wearing plaid, and then there's just one Asian dude who shows up with a hatchet, and he's like, "We're gonna fucking kill you for Cajun sushi," which is the most 80s a joke has ever been.
Yeah.
Ugh, I feel like I need a Valium. Like I'm so hot on this movie.
I mean,
Trinette, go.
No, what just things the thing that really bothers me about this is that it's a fucking duck just running around Cleveland, and it's normal. And what bothers me the most is how this Lea Thompson's character just have a duck fetish.
yes.
Dude,
Because
she is down to pound.
she just instantly accepts this duck after. Okay, granted, the duck did save her life.
She wants that pate girl.
The duck did take her out of that bad Joe Jackson business of music deal. I'm just saying.
the duck made that guy an offer he can't refuse.
Basically.
I mean, when you're in the mood for a good corkscrewing, man, nothing else will do.
Dude, that condom better been corkscrewed. That was weird.
First of all, we were told as soon as we got into college, do not put your condoms in your wallet. That's how you get pregnant.
That's right. Totally.
That's how you get pregnant?
That's how I get pregnant.
Maybe if you got it with a xenomorph.
Maybe.
So apparently this was the first theatrical Marvel movie since Captain America 1944.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, has anybody read the original comics?
My
read
dad
it.
might have because he remembers them from
Your dad
college.
may have. What a great comment.
Well,
I've read a
he,
few.
he knew about Howard the Duck. I was kind of surprised. Never knew he was into comics.
I've read a few.
So what's his backstory?
Thanks to my local library. No, I mean he's exactly what he said. The whole joke is that he's like you said, like an old like a Spencer character, right? Like he's smoky, gravelly, dark room. So it's almost like someone said Howard the Dick, like he's a detective, and they're like, let's make him a duck. And so like the ones at least that I've read, which are the like late 90s reboot that they did because everything Marvel must come back around. That's what he is. He's essentially a detective. He even shows up in The Amazing Squirrel Girl or Spectacular Squirrel Girl, which I've read. And he's literally trying to help a rich dowager get a cat out of a tree and then get sucked up into another adventure where he's fighting Thanos because he's just the lowest of the low-level detective. That's why this movie is stupid, because what he should be is if he's on Earth, he's helping her get out of a jam.
Right.
And then, like, aliens come down for no reason, and cocaine is just everywhere. This is the cokiest movie I've ever seen.
If you want to know who Howard the Duck is, the end of Guardians of the Galaxy, where he's just sitting there laughing at the destruction around him and drinking a martini. That's
he was
Howard
part
the
of the collector's
Yes.
collection. And then he was in the brothel in the second Guardians of the Galaxy.
He was.
He was.
He fucked a robot, which after watching this movie seems more normal. And then he was in a very glimpse in an Endgame where everyone came out of those parts. He's out there holding a gun. He was leaving the brothel from his little ring portal.
But that's
Yeah.
where he needs to be, because, again, if you're a low-level, like, gritty-ass cop, of course you're going to, like...
Well,
you need to think of him as Stryker from Mortal Kombat 3. Like, he's just a dude who's got a nightstick and a gun. He's like, I'll fight your battles with you, but you're going to pay me.
So you're saying in the comics he did help fight Thanos?
In the comic I read, in like Amazing Squirrel Girl or whatever it's called now, he helps Squirrel Girl out. Yes.
Okay.
But it's a joke because he's a gritty straight man to silliness going on.
Plus, I mean, that's Those cameos make sense because in the larger Marvel universe, it's like, oh, an alien duck. That's weird, but that's not out of the realm of possibility, so everyone's kind of okay with it. In this movie, everyone just looks at him and is like, oh, it's a 3-foot tall man duck.
Yeah, and they also don't know if he's real or not.
And nobody ever makes any comments like, what the fuck is that thing?
They think he's
the scientist friend of Beverly's, who I think is really an intern or janitor or something. Like somehow, you almost feel sorry for the little twerp because everyone thinks he's a child or a pet.
True.
Because he is a child and a pet.
Like at one point, Beverly decides she's going to help him out, so she takes him to her scientist friend, who's like an intern at the Natural History Museum, and he's like trying to make Howard the Duck manifest psychic powers and stuff, and Howard just gets so sick of him.
Now, who voices Howard the Duck?
That is an interesting question. I had it.
Well, so there's actually 3 people who have credits for being him, because Howard the Duck is, I think, a Henson creation. There's a duck puppet. There's a duck suit that there's a little person in, and then there's a voice actor who plays the voice acting wherever.
The voice is a guy named, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this, Chip Zien. Chip Zien.
That sounds right.
He was also in Brian De Palma's Snake Eyes, if anyone's ever seen that.
Right. And then the little person who's in the costume is a guy named Ed Gale. But then when it's a puppet, he's directed by a guy named Tim Rose, who's also Admiral Akbar. And because remember, this is exec produced by
George Lucas.
And it's directed by a guy named Will Hayek, who was the screenwriter on a bunch of stuff, including this and American Graffiti. So, he's also a Lucas buddy.
Was he the guy who also wrote, what was that shitty movie with all those baby boomers coming back together after Kevin Costner dies?
A Big Chill?
Yes, that's it. Is that the same guy?
I don't believe he did Big Chill, but he did more American Graffiti and French Postcards, so that's bad. And he did Radioland Murders as well, which is... Okay.
I've never seen it, but I don't have a lot of faith in him after this movie.
Although he does have a screenwriting credit for Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, which I like more than this.
Yeah, well, I mean... One weird thing is how during the opening we get some sort of profound Orson Wellesian narration about, in the beginning there was Howard the Duck.
Yeah,
I think they claim that everything that something that's real in one world can be fantasy in another. So Howard the Duck is a comics character in our world, but he's actually real somewhere else.
Explain that in the actual movie, then.
They don't explain it until 30 minutes in.
He very generous.
Well, they do explain when they go to the museum how there's somewhat of a parallel universe where instead of we turn from monkey to man.
Oh, is this eggs. Where Tim Robbins
comes
fucks up explaining evolution?
Dude, Tim Robbins is working on a book that no one will read. So you know how humans came from monkeys. What if ducks evolved into things that can't fly or swim? Wow.
That interests me.
He spouts a bunch of ancient aliens, Velovsky crap.
Yeah,
among other things.
Howard the Duck is a duck that cannot swim
or fly.
Which I get the flying part.
If God wanted us to fly, he wouldn't have taken away our wings. Actual dialogue in this movie.
But they can't swim? They can't.
He can't swim.
Oh, he can't. So it's a choice. Okay.
Meanwhile, at one point we go to Cleveland's version of Brooklyn to see the Cherry Bombs play, and that's where Lea Thompson is the guitarist and lead singer.
Anyone else get Runaways vibes?
Dude, so many vibes. This is what the 80s were. Shitty bars, and again, Blues Brothers reference. There's chicken wire over it so people can't throw bottles. And they're playing Ballroom Blitz or whatever the fuck they're playing at the beginning. By the way, the audience hates them. And every time Howard shows up, they're more interested in him, of course, until the end when they're the stars and they're singing about Howard the Duck.
And Howard the Duck actually plays in the band with them, which I think is kind of established early. He was a frustrated musician.
He's shredding like Eddie Van Halen in that scene.
It's Back to the Future.
That's Back to the Future.
It's Back to the Future. Your kids are going to love this. No. Okay. It was so boring at this point in the movie. I was looking up if Dolby Surround Sound was named for Thomas Dolby.
Other way around.
Yeah. I was wrong, but I was completely lost at this point.
One of the big things about this is Howard goes. We see the band. Apparently, the band's manager is just there because he really wants to sleep with Lea Thompson.
And he's stealing their money.
Yes.
He's stealing their money.
So, Howard beats him up
Yeah,
with
and
quack foo.
And he takes a power drill to his ear.
Wait, what?
No,
he has one ear pierced. He's like, I'm going to pierce the other one. He's got like either a drill or
no,
a big
he has
needle.
an
ice pick.
Oh.
They're on the bar. He beats him up. They slide across the bar, and there's an ice pick, and he has the ice pick through an earring, and he says, "I'll pierce the other one." And the guy is so shocked that he could pierce another ear that he hands over rights to this band, I guess. Whatever.
That's why I said he made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Yeah.
Sure. And anyway, this movie then putters along. I don't know what to tell you. Lea Thompson takes him back to her house after walking in the rain.
After he saves her from a couple of punks.
A house, by the way, that even by 1980s Cleveland standards...
That's a halfway house, by the way.
I don't think it was a halfway house. That was a pretty decent-sized
No,
loft.
it's a shithole.
It's
a
big,
shithole.
but it's kind of trashy.
It was, okay, industrial.
This is
size.
Reagan's America. They got rid of all the factory jobs. This is an abandoned place. This is the time period where Cleveland's population dropped by half. In fact, I looked this up. Every single scene of this is filmed in L.A., but for those of you who've ever been to Cleveland, which I think I'm the only one here, it looks like where Great Lakes Brewing Company is now, which is an abandoned factory which went out of business during the Reagan administration because they moved those jobs to China. So that's what this looks like.
The only good thing about Cleveland was, LeBron. And now he's not there anymore.
Well, he took his talents to Miami, if I recall correctly.
They came back to Cleveland and then left Cleveland to go to LA.
And then shat the bed to make a new Space Jam.
True.
And the whole gag here, which is, I'm sure that in the comics he's in Cleveland for some reason, but there's no need for this to be in Cleveland. Nothing here is even
Nothing
close
significant.
to Cleveland.
It's just a town.
It looks like a copy of nothing. It's supposed to be a noir. It looks like a noir kinda, and George Lucas is in the background doing rails off of Yoda. So after taking him back to her house, he falls asleep. She looks at him lovingly, and she's gonna have another weird relationship.
I think I kind of like it.
And she's rummaging through his wallet and finds dollar bills with duck presidents on them.
And that's where we find the condom. And everything in his wallet is a joke. Like he's from Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
It's puns on everything.
It's all puns.
It's all puns.
Which is maybe why I like it so much. I really like puns.
The puns. I got you.
There's a way to make a good pun. This isn't it.
It was a duck pun.
Yeah, it's a duck pun.
It was Ducky.
George Washington.
George Washington.
Yeah, no, and it's all there's. I mean, and we didn't even talk about Nor's duck movies. When he's
I'm
being
good.
taken through.
Are you sure?
He's sitting in like a Barca lounger, and he gets sucked through time, and he breaks through this wall, and there's just a lady duck with boobies having like a white wine bath.
She seemed
like you do.
Yeah.
And
Again, this is rated PG
for them boobies.
For them boobies. That's probably the only scene. They probably saw duck titties like, it can't be rated G, guys.
It's like in an action movie, you can kill non-humans with blood and it's okay, but the second a human dies, you get an R rating.
I have
Really?
a question.
Yeah.
How many furry conventions existed before this movie came out?
I think
The
this
same
spawned.
amount as after this came out. I'm sorry.
Are you sure?
Yeah, this isn't the Robin Hood with the foxes from the 70s. That's a sexy ass movie. This isn't Zootopia or whatever.
Oh my god.
All them foxes fucking them rabbits.
So
Go on.
at this point, what the fuck? Okay, so he comes to the apartment.
After the whole thing with her apartment, that's when we go to the Museum of Natural History, meet Tim Robbins, and just checking my notes here.
Yeah, Tim Robbins is convinced of this evolutionary change, and he is someone that she knows. And I guess in an attempt to flirt with her, he says he's a professor or a doctor of some sort. Turns out that he's like an intern, a research assistant.
He's the low man on the totem pole.
Jeff Jones is the head of the department, and he'll come into play later.
But in the meantime, Howard is so frustrated with this whole situation, he storms off, ends up homeless, and gets a job through the unemployment agency. at what's essentially a brothel.
Well, first of all, he tries to bite the ass of the woman who's in charge of the unemployment office.
She's good at her job.
She's never not had a placement, apparently.
Because everyone is probably terrified of that woman.
No matter what the
true.
freak comes through, she's never not had a placement.
Also,
You may be a 3-foot-tall alien duck. I'm going to get you a job.
no, I'm going to stop you there. What people think Howard is really weird throughout this movie. Because, like, there's that... I don't know. I'm sure the credits said, like, cute girl in diner. The one who's the waitress with the glasses, who's kind of like the hippity-dippity chick, is convinced it's a kid in a costume. And she's like, oh, it's such a cute thing. Like, she's, like, kind of fawning on him. Some people think he's a monster. Some people scream.
At one point, he said he was a seeing eye duck.
Tim Robbins knows that he's some sort of anthropomorphic duck right away, but isn't freaked out by it.
And then in the diner, like, I'm sorry, we don't allow pets.
Yeah. And yet, like, all these are jokes for no one. And again, you might be thinking, oh, Hoffman's being hard on shit. This movie cost $38 million.
For what?
That's a good
I will
question.
say,
special
if the
effects.
costumes are real, that's expensive
It was
shit.
given like some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle vibes, but yeah.
It made back $30 million. This movie took a huge loss and is considered one of the worst movies. It won like 6 Razzies. It's awful. This also is that question of who is this for?
Yeah, it's not a kid's movie at all. But I think the Howard the Duck comics are not kids'
So-
comics.
They're
Yes,
not.
but I'm going to correct you there, Matt. If that's the case, don't make it PG.
So-
Because they clearly were trying to make it a kid's movie.
So who's this movie for now? For now, I would say for the
Our
people, our age people.
Stoners.
If people like, was it Little Shop of Horrors,
Yeah.
Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, duck porn, this movie.
Yeah, everything except for Rule 34, this is worse than.
Rule 34.
Anything on the internet can become, anything can become pornography. That's Rule 34.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Yeah. But, like, that's what this seems like. Because, again, this Ghostbusters for idiots.
When do we get to the scene where the Overlord comes and possesses Jeffrey Jones? I know it's after the
It's
Howard
right around
But that
here.
was what the
Howard-
voice were
So
doing.
after Howard is homeless on the street,
and quits his brothel job.
yeah, he quits his job at the hot tub place where there's more random nudity. And again, like, you're trying to pretend there's just duck titties. But, like, I mean, it's Ohio, so it's nothing but white person after white person.
You know,
But
Jerry
they're in a
Springer
bunch-
is in one of those rooms.
He
You
is.
serious?
Oh,
He-
that was a whole thing back in the day. He was an
He-
Ohio politician, and then he
He
got
was the mayor of Cincinnati.
yeah, and he worked on
Jerry?
yes,
Huh.
and he I think ran for Congress or something, but he got caught sneaking across the border into Kentucky to go to a brothel,
Which
Yeah.
he paid for with a personal check.
Yes.
something like that. Yeah,
And I forget if he was.
I just knew him as a talk show host.
he tried to run for governor of Ohio, and then he lost, and that's when he started his talk show, which was supposed to be serious, but then he realized, oh, fuck this, I can't get any ratings this way.
Let me start some shit. Okay. That's kind of cool.
I mean, and like, the whole name of the game was that. Anyway, so there's a bunch of topless women making out with these dudes in this hot tubs. Like, I mean, it's a brothel. I don't know how else to describe it. He has a T-shirt though that comes back later, which is a joke.
He also finds out right around here that there are duck hunters on this planet.
Oh.
And eventually, at the diner, he finds that people eat eggs, even though they're chicken
Carnivores.
eggs.
Yeah, I was about to say. He's like talking about cannibalism. It's like, those are chicken eggs. And besides, even if they were duck eggs, they ain't your ducks because
See,
they're not from your planet.
So how does he know? Oh, do you think the same laws of pro-choice and things like that happen?
Yeah, it's an anti-abortion
West
film. No, you're right.
Yeah.
No, I was actually going to say, like, I wonder if there's like a health video, like, of the
Right.
dangers of eating fried eggs.
It's just bad for your cholesterol and you're killing someone.
That's right.
So it's just like, God, I can't eat fried eggs now.
Why? Because you don't want to upset Howard?
Yeah.
You know what he'll do. You know what he'll do to nerves, behind. You know he bites people.
Seriously. Or uses duck foo. I don't want that shit in my life.
Actually, right after Howard quits his job and finds out about the duck hunters, he meets Lea Thompson again and Tim Robbins, who's apparently the boyfriend of one of her bandmates.
Sure.
Good on him.
Yeah, because they make jokes about like neither of them can do any better.
And he also thinks Aztecs came from Mars.
Was that a theory he had, or was actually he said that?
He
says
says
that.
that.
He said that.
He goes into this whole Ancient Aliens thing, like Matt alluded to earlier, about like ancient people used to worship ducks because blah, 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 blah.
Which they didn't.
No, none of this is true.
Well, I'm glad he did Shawshank.
I'm glad he eventually had a career, yeah.
How old was he when this movie came out?
Like
He
15. No.
he looked probably early 20s. He looked young.
He was young.
Yeah, he was very young.
Last thing I
but it-
saw him in was the Green Lantern movie.
Ooh.
That was a while ago.
I mean, he has a career. It's just, I mean, this is Rick. He's playing Rick Moranis from Ghostbusters.
He is, well, I mean, though,
He even
considering
looks like him.
it's Rick Moranis, it's Tim Robbins, excuse me. It's a Rick Moranis stacked on top of another Rick Moranis with a trench coat over him.
Sure,
It's
but
all-
he is playing the goofy, like, oh no, they're coming after me. Are you the Keymaster?
No, he's the Keymaster. He's looking for the gatekeeper.
That's right.
The Duck Master.
So, Daniel, tell us about this transformation scene. How does it occur?
Oh well, we're skipping ahead there. What happens is
We're
after he
allowed
meets
to.
Lea Thompson. Well, we can't forget the bit where Lea Thompson invites Howard into her bed while
I was
she's
really
wearing
hoping to
lingerie,
skip that part because
so they
I
can
felt
watch Letterman
very,
together.
very uncomfortable the whole scene.
And she tries to have her way with him.
Yes.
Right?
But then Jeffrey Jones shows up as she's about to have her way with him.
Some fellatio relationships, yes.
Yeah, and then he's the one who brought Howard to Earth. It was some sort of experiment with a laser that went horribly wrong. Do.
And so
There's
he
a
could
good-
try to send Howard back home.
Right, but first, Howard at one point's detained by the police on the charge of being an illegal alien. Did that happen in this movie?
Yes.
That did happen in this movie.
Someone
yeah.
beat my pun by about 20 years.
Well, anyway, after that, Jeffrey Jones tries to turn the laser back on, but then it goes wrong, and police show up, the scientists are randomly arrested, and then something possesses Jeffrey Jones, so
He spends the rest of the movie talking like this.
And I'm not sure if that's Jeffrey Jones doing it or because there's an uncredited voice for the Dark Overlord who's somebody else. But it's impressive.
It is. And I did like I mentioned before, I did like the whole transformation scene with the whole, turning into the Fly, essentially, but turning into this just like Overlord type.
Yeah, so you have Howard, you have Beverly, and you have Dr. Dennings, whatever his name is.
Dr. J.
They're in a they all go to a diner, and I think Beverly and Howard are trying to manage this strangely acting and increasingly aggressive scientist. And they end up in a brawl with a biker gang or something.
what is he saying? Hey, you gonna order something, Jack?
I am not Jack, and I don't want to order anything.
But again, this is all Dana becoming Zool. This is the monster inside of him is coming out. It's very bizarre. None of this. It
That's
makes
the
no
Ghostbuster.
sense. I have no idea.
That's the Ghostbuster thing. The possession and the powers and the beast inside of you.
Something's real weird because Jeffrey Jones comes back and at first he's acting normal, but then he says that, oh my God, there's something inside of me. And then he turns into the Dark Overlord and starts making weird comments.
Well, and the laser thing, when it goes off, shoots him through a wall and he disappears and no one knows where he is. And he kind of comes out behind this like cinder block and he's like, I'm fine. Where have I been? I can't drive because I feel funny and etc.
He apparently is driving, by the way, the Griswold's car from the first vacation.
I noticed that.
Nothing like a wood-paneled station wagon
Mm-mm.
to remind you that it's 1985 or whatever.
After that, we get the diner scene, and I didn't realize that this was a Cajun sushi place, because why are they all wearing Japanese headbands?
Cajun sushi Italian.
Ah.
That's what you said.
Fusion.
Fusion.
Well, because it's a punchline. Everything in this movie is a joke that starts with a line of cocaine, and they're like, you remember how weird sushi was? Sushi's fine. I love sushi. But in the 80s, it was a punchline. Everything was a punch. Dude, raw fish? Are you kidding me? You're eating raw fish? Watch 80s movies. I'm sure it's a joke in Die Hard, in Lethal Weapon. It's just... It's the laziest.
I love sushi. Okay.
Well, because it was exotic back then.
true.
Well, and it was also weird Asian, ? So Cajun sushi, which I'm sure is a joke, because this movie has money. That's the other disgusting thing. Like, there's so much money here. But whatever. Cajun sushi, the girl shows up with the giant horn rims and this headband on over a gingham dress.
And eventually truckers go and threaten the gang.
It's always with these truckers in movies, you know?
Because everyone in the 80s is a rapist, I guess, and they're just like, Lea Thompson is hot. Let's have our way with her.
Yeah. Well, this is where we get to the scene you were talking about where Howard's about to be cooked. Like, he's splayed out on the table, and they're, like, putting spices on him and shit.
And the chef comes up with a meat cleaver and cut his head off.
Well, and in the meantime, Jeffrey Jones has, other than viscerating people, has this, like, weird key card thing that makes the laser work.
Oh, the goober.
The goober.
The goober.
And they convince him to give it to them, yada, yada, yada.
Well, I think either Howard or Lea Thompson asks Jones to save Howard because it's like, hey, those guys have the goober that you need. And so he does so, and the truckers all fuck off, but then he takes that code key with him.
Yeah, I mean...
After like, telekinetically throwing Howard around the diner.
After his scene from Poltergeist, let's call it what it is.
Doctorgeist?
Boo.
I see what you did there.
Boo. You know what, Matt? Go to timeout. Go to timeout. No, seriously, go that corner over there. Go stand in that corner.
Turn off the mic. Cut the mic. Speaking of Jerry Springer, just cut the mic. So while in the diner, it's a diner. She brings out some Bud Heavies, and the whole thing goes to shit.
Well, yeah, because Jones kidnaps Thompson, and then cops show up at the diner. Robbins gets arrested, and Howard eventually manages to avoid detection and, like, freeze Robbins.
Mind you, this is like 45 minutes to an hour in the movie.
Oh, this
right?
is like an hour 15 into the movie.
Like this is the part I was telling you earlier. Like, we don't get the plot until fucking an hour into the movie.
This movie has no driver. Again, we talked about First Kid a million years ago, but, like, in a script, you have to have something. Like, what you needed, if that's the case, the timer for him needs to be from the beginning. We created a black hole or something, a wormhole. It's going to close in 12 hours unless we can get you back through it. Nah, this is all just lazy. Like,
what if the duck fucked?
What if he was laying pipe with Lea Thompson this whole time?
Anyway, Howard frees Robbins from the back of the police car, and then they steal a Wright brothers plane.
An ultralight.
Yes, I guess.
They're about to do a touching documentary on the Disney Channel.
And they
I don't know what the fuck this thing is.
And they have a overly prolonged chase scene that, in other things, involves them dive bombing duck hunters while he's yelling Torah, Torah, Torah.
And then in the middle of all that, we get
Stop. Fuck you for liking that. Because how does he know that reference?
That's one of those things you don't think about too hard.
It's probably in the duck world.
A World War II movie. Everything else we've seen is bad duck puns, like Breeders of the Lost Ark. They're referencing a movie that no one gives a shit about until you make, what was that horrible movie, Red Wings?
Red Tails.
Red Tails. This movie sucks.
Well, I mean, even beyond that, though, there's another bit where Jones goes into that nuclear power plant and, like, actually climbs into the reactor.
Because there's 1,000,000 kilowatts there, and I'm like, 1,000,000 kilowatts power.
That's a pocket feature
21
reference.
gigawatts.
After at one point, like, a tentacle comes out of his mouth and plugs into a cigarette lighter.
To get more power, yes.
It's like something out of the show The Strain. If
how on earth does this creature know what a kilowatt is? Is that like a universal constant?
Who gives a shit, man?
It could be. I mean, it's the most heightened power. I mean,
he's about to turn into a CGI claymation slug thing.
Which, by the way, wasn't bad for the 80s.
It wasn't, but remember, this is 2 years after the Marshmallow Man and Ghostbusters. That's what I'm saying.
That was done by a miniature scale, if I'm correct.
Well, I'm sure the tentacle thing was too.
True. Well, they just
that's not to say you're wrong. It's just to say this is still Ghostbusters. You got to have the monster that comes out of the head, man.
Which we kind of that is what that. I described it as a cross between the Rancor and Pinchy. I'm glad you got that, Nick.
I didn't. My bad.
You're
Pinchy.
All
right. Well, I mean, yes, there's that big chase scene in the plane, including several times where they end up on the ground and Howard's trying to take off, and one time where Robbins has to fix the fuel line. And he ends up falling in the water. Well, not falling, but he's like suddenly at the bottom of the plane.
And he's stuck to the bottom of the plane, and Howard's trying to kill him for the insurance money or whatever's happening.
Well, what happens is Howard picks him back up. It's like, this is no time for water sports. I'm like, this is a fucking kids movie.
Oh, dude, they're talking about piss play. I'm like the president.
What kids movie? What was an '80s kids movie? Since you just mentioned that,
The Goonies.
Goonies would be one. We did
Okay.
Labyrinth on this podcast, Dark Crystal on this podcast.
so there were some dark kids movies in the '80s.
Oliver and Company, where Fagin nearly kills everyone.
When did Fido Goes West come out?
That was also the 80s.
Late 80s or early 90s.
I think the first.
No,
first
the
one was
original
definitely
Fievel, An
80s.
American Tale, is the late 80s. I
Yeah.
think Fievel Goes West might be early 90s.
All
Land
Dogs
Before
Go to
Time.
Heaven. All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yeah,
think
that
so.
was the 80s.
So there was very dark kids movies.
It was the Reagan's era. Everything was dark. We're
Gotcha.
gonna die. The Russians are gonna kill us. You know.
Might as well. Okay,
Yeah,
I got you.
We have no hope.
Yep. Anyway,
You
speaking
can
of
do all the cocaine and then talk to a duck. I don't know.
I mean, yeah. After that long ass flight chase, we get
That was
back
the police. That was for legit. They were shooting at this thing, and nothing exploded. That's the other thing. There was all these I wouldn't call it CGI. It's just the water.
Speaking of water sports, ladies and gentlemen.
Was there any explosions? I was
At the end when they destroy.
No, I'm talking about this police. They had a police. They were shooting this duck with the shotguns and with these fuel lines just leaking everywhere. I wanted to have the fucking Point Break lethal weapon explosions.
No, that never happened.
I got
The
this.
nuclear power plant should have exploded at the end of the movie.
Boom.
Well, I mean,
Well, this is
Several
they're flying over the
crash movie
Cuyahoga
stars.
River. They could have had the river catch on fire.
They could
Long
have.
decade.
They could have. They could have had an early scene of the BP oil spill or something. I don't know.
If
Exxon Valdez.
Howard washed up on shore covered in oil.
Oh, that's a good commercial for Dawn. Yeah.
well, anyway, they get to the
Dude,
lab
At one
and
point, she finds feathers in her bed. She goes, "What's this?" He goes, "Leftovers."
yes,
Right?
I didn't catch that.
yep, that happened.
Gross. They had duck sex.
Well, they do get back to the lab, and Jeffrey Jones is, as the Dark Overlord, is restarting that laser to bring more of his species onto Earth, and he's wants to use Lea Thompson as a human host.
Right.
And so Tim Robbins and Howard steal like some sort of big gun from the storage locker that's apparently not really all that secure.
Yeah, it's supposed to be something they were to sell the military. The military didn't want it. So they just-
Fucking Howard fucking karate chops the door open.
Yes, he does.
That's how secure it
Yeah,
is.
it-
Quack food it open.
It says like no entry, and then the karate chops this as access granted, which I'm sure just killed someone.
And then what? The gun is like in a steel cage that's like got one padlock on it.
Okay, so recently I read a book called A Stupid and Futile Gesture, which is about essentially National Lampoon. But he's talking about seeing like the first, like I think it was Airplane, and realizing that he's lost, comedy is done.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, and he wrote Caddyshack and Animal House. Like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah. So as
Like
soon as
that's what this feels like. Like he's just like, no, we can do what they did in Airplane. Like, because like that's what these jokes are. They're just airplane jokes done by someone who has no idea how to be funny. It's so stupid.
Although to be fair, this does foreshadow Dragon Ball Z fights when
It does.
the Overlord is shooting at the weapon and then Howard's firing back.
yeah, the closet. Okay, I see that. I
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah, and he's on this little. It's a scene from Austin Powers. Like he's on this little cart thing
Oh.
with a gun.
It's like a Jeep if they had one of those eraser guns on it.
Yeah, that's
True,
not a bad
true,
description.
And pre-Troubles Jeffrey Jones is shooting hand lasers out like he's. I mean, it's George Lucas. It's the Emperor. It's the Emperor with his force magic.
Oh.
Same dude 2 years before. And he's throwing the force magic, and Howard's shooting back at the laser.
Unlimited power.
Yeah, and then not in this case though because Jones loses.
Well, let me ask you a Star Wars question. Okay, you
Sure.
said that the first Star Wars movie was not Return of the Jedi.
First one is
New Hope.
which
New
is
Hope.
called Star Wars. It's 77.
77, and this movie came, and then what?
And then Empire, I think, is 81?
80.
80.
Empire.
And then Empire is 83.
You mean Return of the Jedi is
Yes.
83.
So this movie
83.
came out after Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Right. It's the
Alright.
first thing he produced after that. Now, he had done beforehand Raiders of the Lost Ark as an executive producer, directed by Spielberg, but him and they were buddies. This movie was really more him on his own because the director was a buddy of his who was a screenwriter. He didn't want to direct it, but he's behind the scenes giving all the notes. He's the one who got the puppet guys. He's the one who approved the script. It's all his money.
Yeah. I mean, it's all Lucasfilm's money, plus he's got ILM doing the special effects.
Yeah, and the thing is, the problem is the script and the directing. The movie looks incredible. I have it in 4K.
And you have the people to do it.
You have the people to do it. You have the effects. You have an incredible puppet suit. But this script is dog shit. I'm sorry. The jokes are awful.
Well, plus they repeat the same thing. We're not quite at the end yet. Do you think we should go ahead and skip to there?
No, go there. I mean,
We're
we're
already
close.
pretty much there anyway.
Well, we are. After the first fight, the Overlord gets separated from Jeffrey Jones, so he comes back to normal. But then we're
Super normal, by the way, like unfazed.
Yeah, and then we got the Rancor Pinchy offspring, and that eventually Howard kills that with the same weapon. So we've already seen that scene. I don't know why. And then three other overlords are coming through the laser portal,
And they're all the exact same fangly.
Just copy and paste.
Yep.
Copy and paste.
And Howard stops them from coming through by destroying the machine, which means he's stuck on Earth. But yeah, I mean, he decides he's okay with that because now he gets to manage Lea Thompson's band.
And then we
That's
end like
the
we're
reason.
Wayne's World. But like him and now Tim Robbins dressed like he's Thomas fucking Dolby are manning this show, and now all of a sudden they're a huge hit, which is nonsense.
Call him Howard the Duck. I think
This is up there with the Ninja Rap as terrible songs
Yeah.
that should never be in
oh,
movies.
but Vanilla Ice.
Go Ninja.
Go Ninja.
Go Ninja. Go.
I would
Second season. Check out the Patreon.
I would say this is better than Ninja Rap because Thomas Dolby is actually talented.
And this spoofs Back to the Future, as we mentioned before.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's literally Howard the Duck. You should listen to this. I mean, it comes out and he's playing Johnny Be Good.
How old is Lea Thompson right now?
Now?
Yeah, and she
Now,
wants
now.
now. She wants to direct.
Yeah,
She's in her 50s.
Late 50s, early 60s.
Oh, she can do it.
yeah. She wants to. She said on Twitter she wants to direct a Howard the Duck reboot.
Well,
I let her.
now,
Yeah,
this movie.
you hear us, Kevin Feige?
Well, okay, yeah. I guess that would be the only reason.
So I'll go ahead and say this. This movie does technically have a happy ending. And no, I'm not talking about Lea Thompson and Howard the Duck
And a
meeting
weird corkscrew
backstage.
hand job.
You know what? Peacock TV cut out this scene, and it's like, I can't be bothered to go check what actually happens. But yeah, it ends with a brief credit sequence, and then there's, I guess, a stinger, and then it's over.
Yeah.
The happy ending is this.
Diddle-a-doo.
So after this movie bombed, Lucas sold part of ILM, his special effects division, that were known for their animation effects, to Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was the guy who was really pushing them. It's like, hey, you've got some great software here that you've developed. You need to go and sell that and like advertising it. So they did that, and Disney bought some of their software in order to automate their animation process. At the same time that happened, they started experimenting with making little computer animated short films. Well, Disney got very interested in that. It's like, hey, you guys want to maybe do one of those as a feature-length film for us? And they're like, yeah, okay. So Howard the Duck is literally why Pixar exists.
And that's why the effects in this look incredible. This movie bankrupted so many people that Pixar exists.
You're welcome, Tom Hanks.
That's right. First of all, you're welcome, Tim Allen. That's the only reason why Tim Allen has a career. Tom Hanks is fine. Don't worry about Tom Hanks.
He's fine.
Worry about Tim Apple. In the meantime, let's go around the horn. Matt, why is this the Academy Award winner for best film Matt ever made?
I just thought it was funny. I mean, the chase scene where they're all flying went on too long, but it's entertaining. It's kind of dumb, but I thought it was hilarious.
We were watching two different movies here, Matt. I mean, the jokes in this movie are so bad. They're like just Flintstones level duck puns.
Yeah.
That's all they are, and the effects are great. I do like the effects, especially the practical effects with the Dark Overlord. That looked good, but I mean, in terms of the plot, in terms of practically everything else, including the performances, this was just bad.
I own this movie somehow on accident. It was to rent for $4.25 on Amazon or to purchase for $5. It was literally not that much of a difference. So I said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna buy it." I regret it.
You want your money back?
But no. I'm gonna watch this movie in a different way next time, and I'll come back to y'all and see how it happens.
So you'll be in the room where it happens?
I'll be in the room where it happens.
This movie, I had my mouth like agape the whole time. This is one of the most bafflingly bad movies I've ever seen. Like, Matt kept saying, like, it shouldn't have been a kids movie. Well, it's not a kids movie. They didn't try to do anything with it. Like, they could have picked it was a kids movie. They could have made it an R-rated comedy. They made nothing. This movie is nothing. It's puns. It's a lot of puns. It's so many puns. But puns aren't funny. And if they are funny, they're like BBC television funny. This movie is not for anyone. Now, like, my usual thing is, like, if this was in Italian and you were reading subtitles, you'd enjoy this. You wouldn't. The effects are incredible. Now, I'm the opposite of you, though, Nor, because I'm happy I own this. Because no one's going to believe this exists. I need to show this to people. People are going to come over and they're like, what do you want to watch? You have to watch at least 20 minutes of Howard the Duck with me. They're duck titties for no reason. There's no other duck sexuality. At one point, cops beat him up and strip him down, and he's just a duck. He's a weird-looking duck, but he looks like Daffy Duck, right? Like when you do the duck season kind of bit, right?
Yeah, he's a white duck.
But he's just standing up like a normal duck.
Yeah.
Them's duck titties with nipples for no reason, as though they're the height of evolution, as though if you become the top of the evolutionary chain, you just develop nipples for no reason, as though they feed their young with milk. This movie is so much cocaine for no reason. It is shocking. No one should see this movie, but since it exists, everyone has to see this movie.
Agreed.
It's not funny. It's not fun. If watching this by myself, I just wanted to keep running in case I blacked out and knocked my face out on the console of my treadmill. But if people exist in your friend circle, you have to watch it with them. Because I'm telling you, you own this now, Nor. Next time people are at your house, you crack open the whiskey and just say, you're not going to believe this.
We're gonna take shots every single time they reference.
You don't have to watch the whole thing, especially when Tim Robbins is like, "Oh no!" I mean, it's literally a scene out of the Sesame Street movie "Follow That Bird." They're just flying around for no reason and they're out of breath. Like, and then at the end, there's a musical number. This movie is such a fucking disaster. You have to see it. Anyway, we're out of time. I'm out of breath and I need a drink. In the meantime, thank you for reviewing us, subscribing to us. Help us beat our competitors. Stab someone in the night. I mean, help us out. Review us. Join the Patreon. We have extra episodes, and I promise I'll catch up on them. But at the moment, I did the math. We have 27 extra hours of content that aren't on the main feed. So if you want to hear more of us, we're there. You literally can spend a couple bucks a month, and guess what? We come out with new content every month, but when you buy that first month, you get access to all the old stuff. So it's a bargain right away. We appreciate it, and we put in the extra effort for you guys. So thanks for what you do, and keep reviewing us, share us with your friends, because that keeps us on the charts. Where, as we're recording last week, we were 176th in the entire country for podcasts.
Woo! Hoorah.
Yeah.
And that's our country, America. For some reason, we've been in the top 10 in Ghana for the last year. So,
You're welcome.
yeah, I know. I love how Daniel looked at Nor for that. In the meantime, thank you. We're out, guys. Thank you very much.
Myopia Movies is produced by Nick Hoffman and Daniel Settis. It is hosted by Nick Hoffman and Daniel Settis. Mission Briefing is hosted by John Copsey. Podcasts are edited by Daniel Settis, and Patreon is edited by Nick Hoffman. Our engineer is Nick Hoffman. The theme song is Surf Shimmy by Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license.